Mine is on college students. Um, and the reason why I'm focusing on helping with college students is because in my class we were talking about prosocial behavior, and I had asked them, how do they learn to be prosocial? Is it something that's modeled to them? Is it part of what they learn through school? And my adult college student says, "Oh no, that's not us. We're not prosocial," which surprised me. And I said, "Well, are you ever prosocial?" And they said, "Yeah, later on in life when we have children and we're married and we have to be," which shocked me. But I'm like, okay, I have to find out what's going on here. So I looked at the literature, and the literature talks about three different kinds of helping behavior: prosocial, egoistic helping, which is your needs outweigh everybody else, and then the altruistic, which is just the opposite. My needs don't matter. It's the helping, it's the victim. I need to be there for them. So in prosocial behavior, it's looking at, I'm a volunteer, and yes, I can help my community, and it's kind of like a negotiation between you and that person or organization. So then we have egoistic, and then we have altruistic. So the most recent research is saying, wait a second, this egoistic helping behavior is really starting to have a prominence in our research. And so they're trying to figure out why, what's going on? How is it that people learn to help, or what helps them to decide I'm going to help or not help? And so Davidio and his team looked at our decision-making process when there's a crisis or when there's a situation where somebody needs help. What is it that we do to decide, are we going to help or are we not? And they found that there are variables that we look at, such as time, money, what are our resources that we have to expend on behalf of somebody else. And he found that if it's low cost to us, the helper, if it's something easy we can do, then yeah, probably I will go ahead and help. I'll probably do that. There's other researchers, Popsel and Schroeder have done some research also on the dynamics of helping. And they have found, again, that there are the variables of personal costs, such as what is the potential for personal injury to me? If I see somebody that maybe they're being bullied, or maybe someone's stealing their purse, and I go in to help, what is the probability that I can get hurt? Another factor is the physical and mental effort put forth on behalf of the victim. How much effort do I need to put out? How much do I have to think about this? And then the potential embarrassment. What if I do something wrong and that person laughs at me, or others around me laughs at me? So there's these other factors that other researchers have come into play with our decisions. They have also found that if victims in distress were high, but the cost to the helper was low, again, chances are we're going to help. Whether the cost to the victim is high or low, as long as those variables are low for us in cost, resources, effort, we're probably going to help. But the more dangerous and costly it could be for me, the helper, chances are I'm not going to help. I'm going to give myself umpteen million excuses not to help. And if I feel guilty, I could go out and find a first responder or a policeman or a social worker, or just report it in. That way it will relieve my conscience and not helping. But what if you have an ambiguous situation? What if I'm walking through the park and I see this man, looks like a potential homeless man. We lock eyes. We have direct eye contact with each other. All right. And I could think to myself, hey, he's probably hungry. It's getting cold outside. He probably needs shelter. I'm thinking all of these things. And while I'm thinking all these things and we're looking directly at each other, I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable. That cognitive dissonance. I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable because I should do something. And what happens, there's a phenomenon called bystander effect, where we start to tell ourselves, no, that person probably chooses to be homeless, chooses to live their life out in the park and be free of all the constraints of life. So I can tell myself, nah, this really isn't a case of need, and I can walk away. And with that denial, if there's a lot I have to do to help this person, or it's ambiguous and I'm not sure what to do, I won't give any help. There's also two other phenomena that happens. This is called diffusion of responsibility, where if people see a lot of other people coming, it's kind of like, okay, I can leave. I don't have to feel responsible. I don't have to feel it on my shoulders. Somebody else can take it. Somebody else can do it. I pass the buck. We also have a phenomenon called plural ignorance, which is where a lot, I can think, oh yeah, this person needs food, this person needs shelter. Oh gosh, who am I to think I could possibly give this to that person? I need, this needs to be done by a social worker. This needs to be done by somebody else. I would probably make that situation worse. And I can walk away. Anything to relieve that tension that I feel, that discomfort I feel, I can walk away. So what happened, because of the focus group of my students, I wanted to develop a little scenario for this study where they read what to do. Would they help? Would they not help? And why? To see what they would come up with. Because again, they were telling me, we don't have to be prosocial until we're adults and we have children, because then we have to be. Which I thought, wow, that is so value laden. I didn't know what was going on with college students of today. So I thought, I need to check this out. So I invited my participants. I had a sample size of 239. I invited my participants to read this case scenario. The case scenario represented a male student in their class who was in the classroom before class started. And I wrote 3 different levels of distress. What would they do and why? So the first level of stress, you come into class early and notice a male student sitting with his head down, lost in thought, and you sense something is wrong. So this is intuitive. You feel something's not right here. Do you help or do you not help, and why? Stress level number 2. After a few minutes, you look again and notice that the student's eyes are red and tears on his cheek. Now we have physical evidence of distress. Do you help? Do you not? And why? The third level of distress. After a few minutes later, you look again and notice that the student is now digging in his arm. Okay, even more pronounced distress, even more evidence. What do? Do you help? Do you not? Why? And out of my sample size of 239 undergraduate students, the majority of them, it was a close 50-50 split. 37% said they absolutely would not help on all distress levels. And then I had another, I'm sorry. Then I had, let me look at this. My screen's covered up here. 35% that said, yes, they would help. And then a third group of maybe I would and maybe I wouldn't, of 28%. Okay, so looking at what makes the difference between people that would, people that wouldn't, maybe what's their decision-making process? All of them across the board had the egoistic helping behavior. They were more concerned about their issues versus helping someone, even at the level of someone digging into your arm, someone in your class. And those that said, no, I will not help, their concerns were like the bystander, even with digging into the arms, participants responded with, this is anxiety provoking. Ugh, it makes me feel very uncomfortable even reading this. They're not knowing how to handle the situation, social awkwardness and embarrassment, preference to wait for somebody else to deal with this problem, gender issues. Now, this is something I never read in any of the literature on helping, is gender issues. So if somebody wants to do more work, more survey, more research, here's an area. Females who filled out this form said this is not appropriate. Whatever this scenario, it was not appropriate for a female to go and help a male student. I don't know why. That wasn't explained, but it wasn't appropriate. So if somebody's looking for another research topic, please do. For those who would help, they still had the same egoistic helping explanations, that they really didn't want to help, but there were a lot of should statements. Yeah, we should. And we know that sometimes when we say should, it doesn't necessarily mean I would. So there was a lot of should. Yeah, I'm going to help. I'm going to help. But the most common intervention was, are you okay? That's just a simple question. But they had a condition listed that as long as this student who is digging in his arm and crying, as long as this student responds back to them non-aggressively, then they were willing to be more with that person to help them. And I thought that's another area that maybe needs to be explored, as to what, if you have, I've worked in the clinical field. If you're working with somebody that is emotionally distraught, physically distraught, it's kind of hard to expect them to respond to you in a very kind, civil way, because they're falling apart. They're having a meltdown. So I'm kind of curious, what were these students thinking as to how this person would respond? I had absolutely no altruistic responses, very, very minimal prosocial, like I will get referrals for help, showing compassion to this person, Christian moral duties, that kind of thing. But still, just like with the no help group, having those feelings of anxiety, wait for somebody else, but yeah, I should help. Then we had the maybe group. Again, that first level of the student, head down, but you said something is wrong. No responses with that, absolutely none. But when it came to level 2 and level 3, it was maybe. And it could be that the person filling out this survey was just internalizing everything and struggling with, oh my gosh, do I really identify myself as I'm not going to help? That could be maybe what's going on. I don't know. So as a result, we definitely had the bystander effect, as was seen with the fear of judgment, social awkwardness, and embarrassment. We had the diffusion of responsibility. As more students were coming into the classroom, I'm going to let somebody else deal with this. Pluralistic ignorance. Let's wait for somebody else. Maybe this student has a best friend that knows what's going on. Or the classroom is the teacher's domain. Let's let the teacher deal with this. Okay. So in summary, again, yes, in this survey, all across the board, helping, not helping, maybe helping, those egoistic comments were there, very much so. And so it made me think of my focus group, and I'm thinking maybe the attitudes and behavior, the attitudes they have, like we're not prosocial. And I'm thinking, are they right? And so again, I want to say, if anybody's interested in doing research in this area, I think there's a lot here to be teased out and figure out. I did ask my college students, I said, well, what do you do to help each other? And they're like, mm. And I said, if someone is behind you, do you hold the door open for them? Only if it's a person with children will they hold the door open for them. And that was for both the males and female students. When I asked, what if it was a father with children? You still hold the door open? Because before, the first scenario was the mother with children. The second scenario, what if it's the father with children? The males would not, but the female students would hold the door open if a father was coming through the door with children. I just found that very, very interesting. And it reminds me again about that gender issue that came, that was brought up. So that, I hope I'm doing well on time, because I know we have one more presenter, but does anybody have any questions for me?